We hear lately the Secretary of State talking about he is perhaps considering another inquiry. Another inquiry into what? Let's look at the background of the individual that we're talking about here, that they're talking about wasting millions upon millions of pounds upon. The background of this man is Sean O'Callaghan, who was head of the IRA in the south of Ireland for a number of years, stated that he was at a high profile meeting of the IRA and Pat Finucane come in along with, I believe, Gerry Adams to that meeting. That Pat Finucane helped turn the finances of the IRA around. He has two brothers, I believe, are senior IRA men. Now, if you're going to play with fire, you will get burned. Now, that's not to say anybody had the right to go in and shoot this individual, because I believe, well, unless he was actually proven to be an IRA man, I still don't believe people should go out and take life, but I certainly will not condemn somebody shooting a terrorist. I've made that clear from the word go, and I still stand over that. I don't condone murder, but I will not condemn the murder of an IRA man, because them men are involved in killing other individuals. Now, we were told there'd be no more inquiries. We're looking at a situation here in Northern Ireland, and let's look at the facts and figures. Some of the worst atrocities ever carried out in the history of Europe were carried out by the IRA. And just to name a few of them, look at Claddagh. Look what went on in Claddagh. A cover-up by the security forces and by the Catholic Church. Is there an inquiry? Not that I know of. Is the Secretary of State calling for one? Not that I know of. King's Mills, the worst act of barbarity, of brutality ever carried out, where they went round, where they lined men up, 11 men up against a minibus. One survived after being hit 18 times. They shot them 160 times. That's how many rounds they fired at them. They then went around and shot them in the back of the head while they lay on the ground. Now, if that's not a war crime, I don't know what is. Some of them men went on to carry out numerous murders. They actually become serial killers because there was no proper investigation. And here's something else that I'll state, and a few years ago I'd have found it hard to state, but I believe that there was British intelligence involvement with that gang, that they were covering somebody within that gang. Now, are you going to give us an inquiry into that, Secretary of State? Or is the British government going to give us an inquiry into that? We believe there has to be equality and there has to be justice for everybody. It cannot be for the few. We've spent hundreds of millions on Bloody Sunday, and we've spent millions on other inquiries. We spent millions, well, okay, they had an inquiry into Billy Wright, which you could say was from the Unionist Loyalist community. But he was shot in a jail. One of the most high security prisons in Europe. This man was shot in. Of course there should have been an inquiry. Wouldn't have mattered if it had been Jack the Ripper that was shot in the jail. There should have been an inquiry, and a proper inquiry, not one that turned out to be a farce. I have nothing against people from the nationalist community, and neither has the majority of the innocent victims. Republicans are a different kettle of fish. And there seems to be everywhere there seems to be an inquiry, Sinn Féin seem to be heavily involved. Now, to me, that stinks, because it means that Sinn Féin feels that certain people within the nationalist community is worth putting the effort in for. The only reason that I would see that they would do that is that they would have some benefit out of it. Now, I can't speak for every individual case, but we know what their benefit is in some of the cases. And it's quite obvious that's what the benefit is in the Pat Finucane case. Pat Finucane was an IRA man, and a couple of his brothers were high-ranking IRA men. So let's not get away from the fact that the British taxpayers should not be paying out millions of pounds to look into the death of an IRA man, no matter who shot him. Because at the end of the day, this man should not have been involved in what he was involved in. And it was wrong to shoot him. But that does not get away from the fact that if he hadn't been involved in what he was involved in, perhaps he still would be walking about today. Unlike the innocent victims, unlike the men on the minibus who were stopped, taken out, lined up and slaughtered simply because they were Protestants, unlike the men in Darkley Hall, Gospel Hall, who were in singing hymns and praying whenever the gunmen come in through the door, unlike Tullyvallen when they were reading out of the Bible when the gunmen burst in through the door. There is a big difference. One gang in South Armagh, we without hesitation can say that we can link them in to at least 100 odd mothers. Now the HET is talking about 45 to 50, maybe 55. That's what they're saying. We believe we can link them into 100. Now does that not warrant an investigation? That one gang carried out so many murders, and if there had been a proper investigation in the time of King's Mills, there's a good possibility a lot of men would be alive today, because these boys would have been put behind bars. Now we're sick to our back teeth of these inquiries and the government rolling over and giving in to them, and we're sick to the teeth of none of our politicians standing up and speaking out and telling the truth. They know what Pat Finnegan was. Why don't they stand up and have the backbone to say what he was? Who are they afraid of offending? Sinn Féin or the Finnegan family? It's regretful about the wife and the wider circle of family who perhaps weren't involved or weren't involved in the IRA. It's regretful, but the reality is this man brought this upon himself. He has nobody else to blame, and now they want the British taxpayer to pay out somewhere between 10 and 20 million to have an inquiry. At the same time, if you're a Protestant or if you're an innocent Catholic who was murdered by the IRA, you're not entitled to an inquiry. No, you don't count. We're saying no more. No more inquiries. No more millions upon millions of pounds of British taxpayers' money being paid. We got the Breen and Buchanan inquiry in the first place. We pushed for that. That is the only inquiry we ever got, was the Breen and Buchanan, and we got that ourselves. I personally took certain people to that inquiry, to the judge to get that inquiry going. Now we done the research, we done the work on it, with no resources but what we had ourselves. Now we're calling on our politicians to get out their backsides and start to put money into people to research into what has been done to their communities over this last 30-40 years. Not just to put somebody in to sign a form or post a letter. Let's see these people working. Let's see this coming out in the open. If we can find enough to justify an inquiry into the Breen and Buchanan murders, because it goes far wider. Let me make this quite clear. It wasn't simply about the murder of the two police officers. That gang that was there that day were involved in quite a few other murders, and that's what we hope will happen. But where's our politicians? With the exception of one or two have said a few things on it, the majority of them are not pushing and rolling in behind it. 5 years that's going on now. 5 years we're waiting for that inquiry to start. But because it's the Irish government, the effort is not coming from our politicians. Because it's going to cost the Irish government money, the effort is not coming from anybody within the nationalist community. You know, so when they call for inquiries, like, I think it's about time, if they want to move on in this country, that they start treating Protestants equally and start giving us our human rights and giving us our justice, because we're sick to the back teeth of it. And if our politicians won't stand up and say it, people like me will stand up and say it. And they can threaten all they want, and they can do whatever they feel like doing, and they can try with the funders and all to close us down. But they don't understand. We don't get funded to do this work. That's why you work maybe 100 odd hours a week. People within this organisation do the majority of this voluntary, and the majority of the work and the research into all this is done voluntary. There's nobody getting paid to sit in an office. If our politicians would do the same, if they would get their researchers, employ the people the way Sinn Féin IRA does, because that's what Sinn Féin IRA does. They employ people to dig up as much as they can. If they think there's a problem, They'll get somebody to look into it. No matter if it takes 6 months, they'll get them to look into it. You'd be lucky if you get our people to spend 6 days. Matter of fact, 6 minutes could be or 6 hours could be a problem. So I'm asking our politicians now to start employing people who are researchers and start to look into what happened. And I welcome what the Grand Master of the Orange Order has said. They lost 300 odd members. Quite a few members within our organisation were Orange men. And there was Orange women lost as well. So we welcome what the Grand Master said. And the other thing I'd like to finish with, we're proud of the RUC, we're proud of the UDR, and we're proud of the B Specials, and we're also proud of the British Army. We're not ashamed to say it, unlike some of our politicians. They're not a total disgrace, some of them. And there's coming a time that we've had enough of it. We've had enough of people trying to throw it on us when they think we're down. Well, they've picked the wrong people to pick on, because we intend to fight back.